The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice.
Everything you read in the mainstream media is 100% true.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Chopper Prophets. I'm Mike, I'm your host, and tonight I have the pleasure of interviewing this last year's winner of the People's Champ Award through Showclass magazine, which meant that he was entered into the show for Born Free, being able to show his bike at Born Free. And so I'd like you all to welcome JP Rodman. Welcome, JP.
Hey.
So this is kind of new.
Having me on here. This is cool.
This is kind of a new thing, right? For this season, we've been doing some video interviews, and you're actually the second one that we've done using Google Hangouts, Tyler being the first, which his interview was released a week ago or so. So I'm impressed with the technology, but I'm more impressed that I can sit across the virtual table and actually have a conversation with you. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's awesome. What's funny is your face will freeze every now and again, so you're stuck, but your voice is still going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
do I talk here? Do I not talk here? Where do I talk?
Yeah, but it's funny, man.
I'm sure the flow will get better as we talk more. So
yeah, I'm gonna concentrate on the voice.
There you go.
And,
that's usually what I do too. It makes it easier.
Right.
So congratulations, JP, on winning People's Champ. And I think we all know this isn't your first bike, but it is kind of the first bike that launched you, I guess, into people's eyes. And so we kind of want to we want to hear a little bit about, what has driven you up to this point in your life and how your life was like growing up. You've listened to a few of the past interviews, and the questions aren't going to differ that much, but the answers will. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your childhood was like?
All right. Yeah. I don't know. I always think pretty normal childhood. I was born in Pueblo, Colorado, 1975. I'm 40 years old now. And we moved from there to northern New Mexico, a place called Farmington, New Mexico, when I was about 5. And right around 5 or 6, that's when I got, my first BMX bike, and we lived over by this, there was a wilderness park. So I was just outdoors all the time. I heard guys talk about, you just leave all day long when we were kids, go out on the bike and just had friends in the neighborhood. And we were just always kind of messing around on the BMX bikes and, doing that. It was good.
That was kind of normal childhood, for us, because I'm about the same age as you. We were gone all day. We'd leave in the morning. We wouldn't come back until kind of 9, 10 o'clock at night sometimes. Yeah,
when the street light came on, I had to be home.
Gotcha.
That was like the rule. I'd pop in and grab some snacks or something, and then just head back out.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was a good childhood. It was fun, and I did pretty decent in school. I didn't get in much trouble, up until high school, but anyway.
What kind of trouble did you get into, JP? Spill the beans.
Oh, it was at high school, everything was cool till about once I got my car. Once I got my driver's license, I quit going to school. I would show up and I would pretty much leave, by the middle of the day or something. I wasn't spending much time in school.
Yeah.
At that point, when I turned 12 is when I started skateboarding, and that took over everything at that point.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to do. And it was funny. My dad used to tell me back then, he'd be like, yeah, I looked in the paper today, didn't see many jobs for skateboarders. And then now, it's funny. I was up at his house today, and he was watching a football game, but on is going through the stuff on DirecTV on the directory or whatever, and there was some professional skateboarding stuff on there, and I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, man, it's on when the fucking football game's on, man.
Seems pretty popular to me.
Yeah, it's pretty. I know it's way popular now, you know. But it's just funny stuff like that, you know. But anyway, back to getting in trouble. I quit going to school. You know, it was a party. That's what, like, the skateboard and party back then. That was it, you know.
Yeah.
But at that point, we had moved from Farmington to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Bosque Farms, actually, like south of, it's a small community south of Albuquerque. But
okay.
Yeah.
Were you able to keep skating and stuff down there, or is that where you started skating?
I started skateboarding down there. They, you know, it was dirt roads, but down, I bet you it was like a half a mile. There was this guy, Rob, and his younger brother, and there was like a kind of a group of older guys who had a half pipe, and that's where I would go. And it was cool, you know, it was like their backyard in like a huge field, you know. So it was cool, you know, like it was half pipe skating. And then we moved that ramp down and put a spine on it and all kinds of stuff a couple years later. And then, but I spent all my time in Bosque Farms over there when I was skateboarding and stuff.
Did you have aspirations of becoming a professional skateboarder, or was it just, you know, this is what you love to do, so you spent time doing it?
Yeah, and I don't know. I never thought of it as like it was gonna be a job back then. You know, I didn't know. I had no clue of what I was gonna do back then.
Sure.
It was. I don't know if I was lost or whatever. I don't know, but I really. Yeah, exactly. Up until like my 30s.
It takes some of us a little longer. That's all.
Yeah. And, but see, and back to like when I got my car, then I could drive up to Albuquerque, and I had a group of friends up there. Mm-hmm. And my friend Ray, like his grandparents and his folks, they had the skate shop Concrete Wave there in the South Valley. And man, I hung out with those guys a bunch and would go up and spend my like weekends and the days I was ditching school in Albuquerque skateboarding and hanging out. So I had like a group of friends in the city, and then like my group of friends down in the country. And so
see the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool for sure.
What were your parents kind of doing during that time? I mean, your dad obviously wasn't thinking that you were going to be a professional skateboarder or anything like that. So what were his thoughts? I mean, did they know that you were ditching school and that you were not really participating?
You know, I could answer when I did school. I knew at about 6 p.m. or so, the school would call, so I could answer the phone when the little recording came that said I wasn't there. So I got away with it pretty good, and they weren't really checking my grades. I mean, up until like my junior year or so, I had kind of passed, and then it was like my senior year I was done. You know, I was so far behind that I would never. Well, I could have, but yeah. I could have pulled it out, but
you weren't interested.
No, man, it was just, I don't know what it was about school. I didn't want to be there at all.
I don't think you're alone, man. I think a lot of people feel that way. You know, I mean, I felt that way too. So
yeah, it was different. You know, there was kind of the group of skateboarders, but everybody else was, you know, there's like, you know, it was, you know, cowboys and jocks, you know, and back then skateboarding wasn't accepted the way it is today, you know, so we kind of stuck out.
Well, you're not the first person to say that either. I mean, even an interview I did it feels like a long time ago, but like 3 years ago with Billy Childress, he was saying the same thing. I mean, I think it was even in North Carolina, you know, they had the jocks and then the not jocks, but there was no real place for skateboarders. And so you know, they were always getting run off or people trying to beat up on you or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. You know, I didn't really fit in. I tried at points like to try and play baseball, and you know, I put the garb on, the cowboy garb, and just fucking didn't feel right, dude. I just didn't feel right at all. And so I just always gravitated back towards the skateboarding always.
Yeah, that makes sense. So were your parents were together during this time then? I mean, are they still married?
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. They've been married 40 some years, I guess now. And they were together. And then, my mom supported what I was doing. My dad, he didn't really care too much for the skateboarding and the friends I was hanging out with and stuff. Cause, prior to that, when I was 12, about 12, 13, somewhere in there, he had got a 55 Chevy, and we had spent time together building this car. And we did. We built this car together. It was his car, but, I would help him work on it and stuff. And when the skateboarding kind of took over, I didn't spend time in the garage with him. So it was, it took me away from him. So I could kind of see, he's even told me recent, cause he works here, this shop he bought this place, and that's it. He tells you man, if you'd have just been around, you could have had all kinds of stuff by now, and
spoken like a true dad.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. You don't get any slack from that dude, but,
that's how dads are supposed to be, right?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. It's what's cool is with this now, he's just man, this is so cool. He always wanted a big shop, and we can kind of work together and make stuff together. And so he's it's kind of his dream has kind of come true at the same time.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Tell me about the shop a little bit. I know we'll kind of get into that fully, but you've got a pretty unique setup there.
Oh yeah.
Not only in the town that you're in, but just tell us a little bit about your location. I mean, you don't have to obviously give away total specifics about it, but if you're comfortable talking about just the shop space that you have and the town and how many people are there. I mean, it's kind of a what someone like me who's from the city would say somewhat unpopulated.
Yeah, it's so Raton it's northern New Mexico, and it's north of Albuquerque, about 220 miles, and then south of Denver, about 220 miles. So we're in the middle of those two. That would be the closest major cities. I think Amarillo is if you kind of go southeast or something like that, it's in 200 miles, something like that.
Okay.
And Pueblo, Colorado north, I think is like 90 or so, 60 to 90 miles, 90. And so that's kind of the closest places to get parts and stuff like that, as far as stuff that I'm doing now. But anyway, Raton, I think there's 6,000 people here now. And at one time, I think that this community had 30,000 people when the coal mine was going really big and stuff like that. So it's depopulated. There's a ton of empty buildings. There's not much. There's one coffee shop now that's kind of started up, and a bakery going again. And, there's a Kmart and a supermarket and stuff like that. We've got a Tractor Supply, and, there's some parts houses and, hardware stores, of course. And, but other than that, there's people trying to get stuff going. There's, a few festivals and stuff that they'll have, but it's nothing large, compared to stuff that you see in the city,
Sure. Here's the real test I've heard people say. So how close is it, or how far away is the nearest Starbucks?
Okay, so Starbucks, you got to drive over Raton Pass. It's 17 miles, but you got to go over the mountain pass to get there.
Yeah, and that's.
We were thinking
I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, I do.
Yeah, we had talked about this where you were cruising through the pass a few times when you were on tour and stuff. So yeah, it is, and it's in the Safeway over there. So it's not real big, and so
that's totally a joke question too. I mean, most people, there's the side of the chopper scene that's ride to Starbucks, Starbucks to ride or whatever. And I always have to ask that question, but so, I mean, that shop space is pretty unique then. You said there's a lot of abandoned buildings. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to get into that shop and what that space is like.
Yeah. So in Albuquerque, we were living in a warehouse space that was 5,000 square foot. We had set up, me and Nikki, when I say I talk about my girlfriend, Nikki Zabicki.
Mm-hmm.
That's her name. And she's an artist, but we were living in downtown Albuquerque. We had 5,000 square foot. We had our bedroom set up in the office. We moved a shed in there and put a bathtub in it. And so that was kind of, yeah. And it drained into the floor drain. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was, what do we call it? It's a bohemian lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so we had that place in Albuquerque, and my folks had moved up to Raton, I don't know, like 5 years prior to that. And then, my dad really I had at that point gone out on my own and was doing metal work and stuff in the back of the shop. We had a little retail store up in the front, and my dad was like, man, he really liked what we were doing. And he kept telling us about buildings up here in Raton. And so he got me a job doing it. I did a sign job for the Chamber of Commerce up here. And I brought it up to deliver it. When I showed up to deliver it, he had the realtor and him and, man, like all these paperwork and all kinds of stuff on some different buildings. And we delivered the sign, and then he walked us through like 3 buildings in the, wow. This one being one of them. And, we didn't really want to move from Albuquerque, it was like, well, what are we going to do in Raton, but, this building it's an old Ford Lincoln Mercury dealership from, it was built in the early 40s. It's got this huge, it's a big bay. This goes, I think it's 150 by 65 feet. And then it's got, there's the old showrooms with the offices on top. And then in the back corner over there used to be like they used to do tires and stuff over there. And it's got a little basement. That's where we call it the paint shop now. That's where I do all the, whatever painting that I'm doing, the farthest away from everybody.
Right.
And, so, we walked through it, and me and Nick were just like, what, we felt like we got ambushed,
Yeah,
but
of course.
we were looking for bigger buildings in Albuquerque, and anything, it would be over $1 million, anything like this,
of course.
would be for $1 million. There would be no way that we could do it. So we kept thinking about it. And then, we finally, my parents are coming into town, and we told them, we're like, oh, hey, so, how can we make this happen? And man, my dad was all over it. And I think it was within 2 weeks or whatever, he had gone ahead and, we, bought the building. And, so yeah, man, it just, everything changed at that point, man. I was like, well, all right, we're going to do it. And a cool thing, he said, if you move up here, I'll help you. I'm going to help you get tools, and I'll support what you got going on. And so I'm just so lucky that's like winning the lottery, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially to have someone. It's important in life to have someone support you, but to have your family, support you not only just in word but in deed. Obviously, the way that your dad and mom have supported you. That's pretty amazing.
Man. Yeah, those poor guys put them through hell, and they still got to sign up for.
That's what parents sign up for.
Yeah, see what you got to look forward to, man.
Yeah. So you divided the space up a little bit, right? So that there's multiple stuff, I think is what you were telling me. There's multiple things kind of going on in that same building. Yeah.
So, up in, so this side here, it's like the south side of the building where it comes off of this bay area. Like I said, there's a showrooms, and then above that was these old office spaces that we turned into, it's like our apartment. We went up there and ripped the carpet out, the dirty, stinky carpet, and kind of pulled the nails out of the floor. And then we moved our bathtub from our shed up there and put in a little shower and our makeshift kitchen. And, it gets better every day with, we kind of, not every day, but for a while there, we were adding to it and getting it right. So we can, we've got a real stove now, and, Nikki's got her art studios up there. We got we made a room into a guest bedroom, a little living room, and washer and dryer. Man, we're living good now.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think that many people know, at least not the civilized people, who listen to this cast, know what it's like to live without a washer and dryer. Man, it's tough. Washing clothes by hand, waiting for them to dry.
That, or just like the time you can waste at a laundromat, man. Yep. It's you just got to plan your day. Or what was kind of cool when we had the other one, her mom lives down there, so we could go down and hang out with her mom and do laundry. Kind of it as being as old as we are, kind of acting like college kids, being 40-year-old college kids.
Yep. And, hanging out at mom's all day, probably not the most what's the word, optimal, I guess.
Yeah, she's super cool. So it was actually kind of a nice break, like to go and like hang out in a real house.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's living good now, so that we can have our clothes ready when we want them.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
What's your? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. You were finished. You were finished telling us about the space. Yeah.
So below that is there were the old showrooms, and they're divided in half. So one side we've got it's actually kind of like a showroom. There's all kinds of my dad's got some cool old furniture, and then we've got his bike in there. I got my bike in there, and a 56 Chevy that we've been working on. Well, he's been working on for a long time. And then next to that, the other side of the showroom, my mom she sells antiques online. And so she's got a bunch of stuff in there. And so, yeah, we all kind of share it.
Sounds like you got quite the little commune going.
Man, it's cool. It's working, it's actually working, and everybody, we're just trying to make something happen, just try and survive and, do something cool, we can kind of hunker down over here and then go to shows and, leave town or, do stuff like that, be able to afford to do it.
I was just going to say, having a place that's in a place that's affordable, and it allows you to be able to, allocate your money a little differently than it would if you were living in a city that was expensive. The overhead was expensive and stuff like that.
Oh man. Yeah. It's like it's cut in half, from living in the city. And then we have like 5 times the space.
Right. Sorry,
but,
put my tea down. Hey, hang on just one second, man. I got my little one right here, and I think she's wanting to say goodnight or something. So time to go to bed. But I'm in the middle of an interview, darling, so you need to go inside. All right? Give me a kiss. And go inside. Shut the door. Oh. You're what? Okay, we will, but not right now. Okay. Go inside, shut the door. Okay. Thank you. Waiting for her to shut it all the way. Okay, I think she did. Anyway, yeah, so I work out of my house.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's one thing, like being able to just wake up and go to work. So you actually had to go to work during the week, right?
I do, yeah. I get to work from home 1 day a week, which is pretty awesome. And my boss is super flexible. So, like, I had a flat tire a couple weeks ago, and I was able to call him and just let him know, hey man, I got to get the bike tire changed out. So not only can I not come into work today, but I'm going to spend the rest of the day running around trying to find a spare, and just something I could get me through to the next payday. So he's really cool about stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah, man, that's the ones you hold on to, huh? Those type of jobs.
This one, I feel that way about this job. I've been here for almost 8 years, and it's the longest I've ever been at any place. And it's kind of one of those jobs I never saw myself in, but I enjoy doing it. And so I guess this will be the place I retire at. It could be worse.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. See, at least I think that's it. Like you gotta be able to enjoy it. Like you gotta be able to enjoy your job. You know, of course it's a job, but anything can become a job. You know.
Yeah. Even the things you love. I mean, you know, I don't know if you're there yet, but you start out, you know, making bikes and love doing it. And then before you know it, now people are depending on you and paying you to do it. And now it's what you used to love to do turned into work. And sometimes it's not as fun after that.
Yeah, it hasn't happened. There's a few stuff like got asked to make a sissy bar, and I get a lot of, getting a lot of paint work, which is cool. But as far as like building customer bikes, I don't know if my skill level's there yet. And then like I talk to guys, and they're just a lot of guys like, yeah, just build bikes, don't try and do it as a job. And I think about it, and it's like that's kind of where I think I want to head with it. It's just I'll just build what I build, and if I got to sell it, then I'll sell it, Yeah. And forever how long that lasts. If somebody asked me to make them a bike, I would try and do it,
Sure. But, well, tell us a little bit about like maybe, so you were doing metal work. So are you a fabricator by trade? Is that what you do?
Yeah. I got into that. So when I turned 18, I quit high school, and that's what my dad was like, you're going to have to learn a trade if you're going to survive. So I joined the Navy. And back then they were taking guys. If you had a GED, you only had to sign up for 2 years. So I did like a 2-year stint in the Navy, and I got put in like the division that like the repair division, which is like they call them hole technicians, and machinery repairmen, which is like machinists and welders. Okay. And then the damage control guys was like firefighting stuff. So I was involved in all that when I was there, and that's where I learned how to weld, learned how to run a lathe a little bit, and which I wish I would have remembered some more, because I just got a lathe and starting to none of it's coming back fast enough, I guess. And
I'm sure the more you do, it'll come back.
I know. That's it. I need to make some stuff, man. But so that's where I got into that. I had seen my dad weld and stuff. He's an auto body guy by trade. Okay. And I'd watch him gas weld and stuff when I was a kid. And so the welding came easy, like the, MIG weld and stick welding and stuff. And then when I got out of the Navy, I went to trade school there in Albuquerque and went through their welding program. And they placed me in a job where I was making, like mobile water tanks, and it's just running big, huge, man, as far as you could reach MIG welds, Yeah. And so I got a lot of experience there, and then jumped around job to job for all the way up until 2000. Let's see, up until about 4 years ago. Okay. Just had a bunch of different fabrication jobs, bar jobs, skate shop jobs. Yeah.
But you're making ends. I mean, that's the biggest thing is make sure your bills are paid and be able to move on and feed and all that stuff. So. Oh yeah, it was, there was a lot of moving back in with my folks and moving out, moving back in, moving out. And, but I was, the one thing I could always depend on, like if I needed to make some money, I could go and apply for a welding job and get it. Like I've never been turned down for one, which is kind of cool. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh no, I was like, I still, man, I wish I was a better welder for sure. Well, it sounds like you were good enough. I mean, not only did you get the job, but you were able to retain them. So that's good. Yeah. See, my big deal back then is like, man, I used to drink heavily. So I would be good for about 3 months, and then I'd start fucking it all up, quit going to work and being hungover and just calling in, and I'd always end up losing them. And, so I could always get the job. It was keeping the job was my problem. Yeah. But,
it did open up some of some of them jobs. I stayed out longer than others, and man, picked up some cool skills. So I worked with this dude Matt Eaton, and he taught me how to forge, and he had built a little foundry, and they were pouring bronze over there. So it was cool stuff that I got to pick up on like that. And then when I sobered up, I went to this place called Profab and did a lot of stainless steel welding and a lot of sheet metal work, stuff like that. So I got to learn how to run their press brake, and they had like a turret punch, and man, that's such a priceless, man, being able to spend time on somebody else, learn how to weld stainless steel on somebody else and get paid for it, right. And they're teaching you on the job. So
that's a skill too. I mean, most people, if you talk to them, they go, "Oh yeah, I can run a MIG welder," and of course, it's like a wire feed, MIG from Harbor Freight or something. But or even if they TIG weld, if they stick weld, but it's not a common good skill set that you find in most people to be able to weld aluminum or stainless. I guess any of that stuff, like the harder. Maybe I would say that's the harder stuff to weld.
My aluminum skills they're not where they need to be, but hopefully soon. That's the other thing. You just got to do it,
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well,
tell us a little bit about that. What, like after all that, what, cause I'm assuming maybe this is in the same time frame, and correct me if that's not right, but what kicked you off to get involved with Showclass and People's Champ? Did someone push you? Were you like, I'm just going to do this? And
no, man, all that stuff is like, it was kind of accidental, really. So me and Nikki had got that space, and I was doing metal work, and, she's a painter, and man, I wanted to learn how to pinstripe. And then this one art store was going out of business. And so, I went and bought a bunch of one shot and, some Mac pinstriping brushes. And, about that same time I like joined Instagram. So I was like, looking at pinstripers and stuff like that. And I was practicing and, learning how to pinstripe really, I was hitting people up on Instagram, how do you do this? And I like watch a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff. And,
learning in the modern age.
Oh yeah, man. It's so cool that way. And then, I was watching these guys, and they were metal flaking panels, and painting panels, doing cool, paneling panels and doing cool stuff like that, airbrush fades and stuff like that. So, picked up an airbrush and, started messing around with candy paints and stuff like that. And then, I knew a little bit about body work and stuff like that, and a little bit about polishing paint and stuff like that. So I was making these pretty good panels, and then painted a dude's motorcycle tank, and then I did a roof of this guy's, custom car. And then somehow on Instagram, I don't know what it was. The one guy's motorcycle tank that I painted, he had like turned me on. He's like, it was like Born Free 4, I think. And he's like, we're going out to Born Free 4. So I started like kind of looking at all that stuff on Instagram, and ran across Showclass Magnet. I had read something on one of their posts that they were coming to New Mexico, and they like linked up with Atomic Trent. And then, so like I'd hit him up. He was trying to sell a van or something, and we had kind of linked up, and then I think he had saw a little bit of my paintwork, so kind of got involved with it that way. And then I think through painting a few things for him, the guys from Showclass, then like that Billy Davis helmets, Billy D, they did the feature, the Flake the World or whatever on that,
Yep.
So that's how I kind of got into with the bikes. I'd had a motorcycle when I was in the Navy. I got my first motorcycle. I'd like got on in the paper. Somebody had crashed their CBR. So I got it for like $900, and it didn't have any fairings. And it leaked oil. Somebody had JB welded the case over there on the side and it leaked oil, but I rode it around San Diego. It was kind of cool. And then I guess it was like 2004, one of those jobs had taken me to Salt Lake City, and I was working up there, and there was this dude I was working with who he was in a motorcycle club, and man, dude, I just thought it was like the coolest stuff. He had this cool like lowered Softail with custom paint and shit, and so I bought my first Harley-Davidson in 2004 and rode around with those guys. So that's the Harley-Davidson, the love of that. And when I left there, I had bought this old Ironhead chopper that it was like a old molded up long chopper that I kind of carted around and worked on. Oh. And so I had that bike, and then, I had that thing, I don't know, right when I started doing the painting and stuff, I sold that bike. Okay. So I didn't have a motorcycle there.
I was about to ask you what happened to that one, if you ever built it out or anything.
Yeah, man, dude, that thing was cool. It, it was all molded frame. The fender was all molded in. Tank was molded in. It had a candy apple paint job with some ghost flames. It was bad. And it, cool long. Yeah, it had this twisted Springer front end, and I knew nothing about it. I eventually learned how to keep it running and stuff like that. But I, at first, putting that bike back together was, man, I didn't know shit. Still don't know shit, but that was kind of my introduction, I guess, to having a chopper.
Right.
And but anyway, I had that for a minute, and then sold it when something was going on. I needed some money, and we sold that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so I know from our previous conversation a couple weeks back that you didn't know at the time that Andy was in Salt Lake City from Pangea.
Oh, I know, man. That when I was talking to him trying to get parts for the People's Champ bike, I was like, man, I wish I'd have known him when I was up there. It would have been a different experience, probably. It would have been cool.
It's weird how small the world is. Like I noticed when I first when I started hanging out with folks that were, in different scenes, but kind of around SoCal, hanging around choppers and vans and such, that it was weird, that somebody knew somebody, and then through that person introduced to this person, and then the world of bikes and vans and skating and all this just got like really small. It's amazing how close everybody's intertwined, and they may not even know it, but social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook, you can see like, oh, well, I'm friends with this person. Like I'm friends with JP Rodman, and we have like 15 mutual friends. We're like, oh, wow, what a trip.
Yeah. So it's, that's one cool aspect of it for sure, is that the links, man, you can link up with anybody now,
Yeah. And like you said, you're reaching out to people and asking them about, specific questions to pinstriping and such, and got some guidance and direction. So there's that aspect too. That's good, especially if the people are cool on the other end.
Oh man, that, yeah. So thankful for people like that. That's how I've learned, almost everything really, it, or at least I get far enough to where I could work on it, and kind of see if I can better it, but, right. So that's, I'm lucky that people have been willing to help me.
Well, so you talked about at one point that you'd have a job and 3 months goes by, and next thing you know, you're calling in missing work because you were drinking. And then I thought I heard you say something about when you sobered up. Does that mean that you're sober, like you don't drink anymore, or?
Yeah, I don't drink. Yeah. So when was that, man? I don't know. Right when I was 34, I got really my third DUI, fourth, if you count the one I got on the Navy base. Mm-hmm. And so, man, I'd had I drank way too much, and so I'd gotten in trouble and had to join a program. The state, it was either go to jail for a year or join a program. So I opted for the program, and you couldn't drink, man. You couldn't do any of that stuff. So I had to stop, and that was an eye-opening experience for me, man. And I learned a lot about myself, and it's hard for me. I guess it was hard because I didn't know. I had drank for a long time. Yeah. And, basically when I turned 16, like I said, it was a party, and I tried to keep the party going for, a whole nother 16 years. But, and it caught up with me finally, and I'm glad it did. At the end there, I was a wreck. And, so anyway, going through that program and stuff and getting some counseling, and, you had to do, there was like some mandatory AA and all that stuff. So I went through all that, and, like I said, learned a lot about myself, and, kind of what stuff that was causing me pain and why I continued to drink, stuff like that. And, so in learning that stuff about myself, I learned that I probably shouldn't drink anymore. Sure. And, or party anymore. So I don't. And, it's good. Yeah. It's changed everything for me.
That's good. I bet you have a clearer perspective now, though, for sure.
Oh man. Yeah. Maybe I guess it's clear, I don't know. I think it maybe sometimes I listen to myself talk like this, and I'm like, man, you're kind of a burnout, dude. And,
no way.
But,
we're our own toughest critics, I mean, I can't even tell you, and I'm sure you could imagine how many podcasts and webcasts I've gone through editing them, and I literally have to pretend that I'm not listening to myself, because it's just, I'm my toughest critic. I hear myself talking. I'm like, geez, dude, shut up. You sound ridiculous.
Well,
let these people talk.
You must have edited out good, because I don't know. I do. I enjoy the interviews. It's been cool listening to all those interviews that you have on the podcast. They're great.
Oh, thanks, man. And, it's the people that make them good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the conversation, So
yeah. So let's talk about your bike again, because I really want to know, at what point you decided, all right, well, I know Trent. I've done some work with Trent, who I did a small interview with him. I'd love to get a full interview with him someday. But I'm probably we'll leave him alone for a little while, since he just moved to heaven, as it appears through Instagram and social media. That looks beautiful.
Yeah, his place out in Edgewood, New Mexico was awesome too, man. It was on the other side of the mountain, and really cool landscape of, no close neighbors. And but now, man, he's got himself set up now.
I would expect, if he wasn't so private, I'd expect to see maybe an up-and-coming episode of Mountain Men. Here's Trent. But he seems like that type of guy, who likes his privacy, and I hopefully people could respect that about anybody. But so anyway, so you're doing some work with him, and then you met the Showclass guys. At what point did you think to yourself, I think I'm going to build a bike for People's Champ?
So for Born Free 6, Trent had asked me to paint his Born Free 6 bike. So we had worked on it, and and then I was going to do some helmets and stuff, and so I decided, okay, we're going to do the bike. I'm going to get a booth. Me and Nikki are going to go out there. She'll bring up her artwork, and we'll share a booth, and go to Born Free. And the paint job with Trent didn't work out. I had painted it, and he decided, well, both of us decided that it wasn't really a show quality paint job. And there was some fab and stuff that he needed to do still, so it was kind of, I was going to have to repaint some stuff. And anyway, he's got a really good painter, John Stromberg, that he should have just went with him from the get-go and given me another couple years. But anyway, it was, I already had the booth and stuff like that. So it was cool. It linked up with Mike Ellis from Builtwell kind of all through all this, and got some Builtwell helmets, and got some raw tanks, and molded up a tank and painted 2 other ones, and painted a mannequin, got like a good display of stuff for the booth, and went out there anyway, and had the booth set up, and we set up, for Born Free, like you set up on Friday, and then that People's Champ party is that Friday night. Yeah. So me and Nikki had set up, and we went to that party, and dude, it's so cool. It's like meeting a few people, and just hanging out and kind of watch that whole thing unfold. And that's why I was like, I could possibly do this, and yeah. And I really liked like the long, that molded chopper stuff is just cool. I like that style of bike. And dude, Brian Buscemi's bike that year, that was year before last, it blew my mind, dude. I was like, oh man, that's the kind of bike I want to build. And so anyway, the weekend went on, and it was always kind of in my mind to do it. And I didn't have a motorcycle at the time. We had just moved up here to Raton, so that was kind of part of the deal, was like to get something going up here. So I was like, well, I'm going to build a bike. So I started putting this project together. I don't know, pretty much right after Born Free, I was kind of gathering parts and stuff like that. But I didn't think about People's Champ at all, until, I don't know, I had kind of like I had mocked up something, and I sent a picture of it. And I was like, so when I had sent it to Tim, I think, Tim Lind. And I was like, when does People's Champ thing start? And he's like, I don't know, I'll let you know. And then he had sent me an email or something. He's like, are you still interested in doing it? Here's the, I think you got to have it all in by December. So I was like, oh shit, I had to go buy a motor and stuff like that. I didn't have that yet. Yeah. So that's when I decided to go ahead and build to try the People's Champ thing. That's awesome. So that's how that happened. And then it just went from there.
It wasn't something that you spent years thinking, I can't wait till I can put together this killer bike and bring it before the people so that they all may see my awesome bike. It was very much an organic thing. I mean, it seems like.
Yeah, it was cool. It all lined up, and man, I seriously, at Born Free, I think I was talking to Trent. I was like, oh man, I think it was like the last day or something. And I was telling him, I was like, man, I'm going to, I could do that. I was thinking about doing People's Champ, and I had told him something like that. And he's like, yeah, let me know if you have any questions or whatever, something to that effect. So it was in my mind, from going to Born Free, because I don't know, man, it's, for me, that going to Born Free was, dude, it's just so cool. It was one of those things I just was like, I want to be involved in it somehow,
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people would share that sentiment. There's obviously, as things have progressed with Born Free, it's gone from, very small, organic friends of friends and their friends to now something that's very large. But I don't think it's lost that it's the same epicness that it had. For the first one I went to Born Free 4, so I was kind of behind the curve a little bit. But I still feel like even Born Free 7, which is this last one, Born Free 7, had that same epicness. Like you go to it and there's just, first of all, there's way too much to see in one day, right? There's too many bikes, too many vendors to see in just one day's amount of time. So it's grown up, it's gotten bigger, but it still has that epic feel. And I live in its backyard, so I can imagine being like out of state or even out of the country and thinking like, wow, I really want to go to this not to quote it directly, but premier chopper show, it's SoCal's premier chopper thing.
So, oh yeah, I had never experienced anything like it in my life. You know what I mean? It was it's like you say, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was cool to be a vendor. I didn't go to the show. I was like a vendor there. So I missed a bunch of it. And so yeah, I don't know. It was I just wanted to do something.
Yeah, experience it and be a part of it. That's really cool. I'm surprised. I may have actually run into you at some point during Born Free 6, because that was the year that I interviewed. I did a series of little mini interviews, like 10 or 15 minutes, and I interviewed Trent and, Chopper Dave, a bunch of other people, like actually at the show. I released it as the Born Free 6 special, but those are all people I hope to actually get full interviews with at some point here. Well, tell us a little bit about like kind of that whole experience of being part of People's Champ. So you built up to it, you decided, all right, I'm going to do it. Tell us maybe leading up to the actual show, what it was like putting the bike together and some of the challenges you faced. And then lead us into, even getting it here, getting the bike here, being a part of the show, and just prior to winning, tell us a little bit about all that.
Oh man. So let's see. So I put that, I started putting it together. I guess that would be like around November, and you have to have have a write up and, what you're planning to do by December. And then the guys from the magazine, they pick the first, I think it's 25. Mm-hmm. So that, is, for me, every single one of those cuts was like so nerve wracking, it's like,
right.
It is, and I did it. I wanted to build a bike, irregardless the bike was going to get built, but then, from 25, I think they cut it to like 13. And then at that point I was just like, oh shit, man. It's like, this could possibly happen, So it's like trying to do everything like the best that I could and make it look the best that I could. Mm-hmm. And, I had ordered that frame from D&Z with Reese. Mm-hmm. They had sent that frame, and the lines were really good. For me, it looked really great from the side. But then as I looked down, like I kind of wanted it narrower, and I had this idea for that. The seat had that. It's kind of got the sissy bar seat, the tank, everything's all into one. I was trying to like get the lines right, so. I had never cut up a frame, anything like that. And I borrowed a frame jig from this guy Vegas in Albuquerque, and, just tore into it. And that was kind of, that was nerve wracking to me, that part too. I was like, man, is it going to be straight? How is, never using that type of stuff before, and,
right.
Kind of knowing the concept, you got to keep everything square, and, you don't want stuff to move. And making some fixtures to hold, some plates, to hold in the motor mounts and the tranny mounts and stuff like that, I just never done before. And so I redid those rear legs. I stretched the front down to the backbone, put a whole new backbone in it, and finally got it to look right and get it straight. And so that was. As far as challenges, that was huge for me. It was just one of those things, just wanting it to look the way that I wanted it to look, and then it also being right on top of that. Is right. It's whatever I think right is, I guess.
Right. Well, right's in your own eyes. I mean, you're the builder, so you're trying to accomplish that specific look and look at those specific lines. So,
but then wanting to be strong also, at the same time. So I look at the neck gusset and I'm like, yeah, there's plenty there, and now, I've ridden it a few times and nothing's cracked or anything up there. So it seems that that's all going to be all right, but I'd never done anything like that. So
yeah,
But maybe I think I kind of got lucky with my design.
maybe. So you cut the frame all up, and then now obviously you got to start on the what I would think would be the really hard parts.
Yeah, but the front end is an old front end. I sent that mixed chop shop. He restored that thing for me, so I didn't tackle that. SK Machine, Juan Munoz over there. He works with Scott Jones, Noise Cycles. Mm-hmm. That's and he did the rear hub for me for the rear wheel. So most of my work, Randall Nelson did the motor, and everything I did. I made the pipes and whatever mounts I had to modify, and the exhaust. And the assembly and the design of all that stuff together, but I didn't have to build a motor. I didn't have to do the front end and the wheel setup. What is it? Visionary Cycle Products. They set up the front wheel for me. So those are things like those to me. Like I've never laced a wheel. That's something that that's I'm gonna do that on the next bike that I'm going to build. Those are things that I want to lace the wheel. I want to build the front end. I want to, I want to machine all my own parts, everything that I can,
Yeah.
And so I don't know where I was going with all that, but that's where I want to head. I want to learn that craft, I think that's harder than doing the framework for some reason, I don't know why.
You won't know until you get to the other side, right? You try it and maybe accomplish what you want to do, and then you'll be able to look back and say, yeah, that was definitely harder. Maybe it wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah.
But you were putting together what got us on that track, because you were talking about the rest of the stuff, putting the rest of the bike together, and you started with the front forks, and then what I was alluding to was like the other parts, like the tank. The magical tank and the actual tank in the sissy bar and the seat.
Yeah. See, so what happened with how that whole thing came about is I got that. It's like a DIY peanut tank from Lowbrow, and I narrowed it, and then I knew I was going to put this big resin cutout and do this big resin piece in the front of it, and I was like, man, it's not even going to hold a gallon. So started thinking about doing a rear tank, and thinking about, kind of drew it out a little bit. And my original idea, I was just going to run a petcock. So when that front tank started running out, I could switch it, excuse me, like those guys who have two tanks in their pickup truck or whatever, it starts running out of gas and you reach down and change it real quick. Yeah. So that was the original idea. And then, I was over there. There's this guy. His name is Aaron Labato. He's got an outfit out there in Albuquerque called U.S. Customs, and he does. He makes custom cars. Okay. And I had designed the tank, and I was over there, and he showed me how to hammer weld that, the seam together and do the, it's like a tank roll, and put those pieces together. That thing's like, it's 5 or 6 pieces all put together. Mm-hmm. And he's the one. He told me, he's like, you put a vent on there and don't put a gas cap on the front tank, And I was like, oh man, that's just what an awesome idea. It's something I had never seen is a tank that holds gas with no gas cap, right? And so in linking that rear tank to the front tank, and just have a vent. But then my idea was just have a vent on top, kind of up there where the gas, where a gas cap would go or whatever, and just kind of have, like a chrome one or something like that. And then the machinist guy, his name is Seth Ward here. He's a gunsmith here in Raton, and he used to mess around with airplane stuff. He's like, yeah, put a snorkel vent in it. So that design was between the three of us is how that design came about. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, I can't claim the full rights to it. It took 3 brains to get that one going. That's
pretty awesome. The fact that you 3 came up with it. I mean, I looking at that bike, this is kind of my takeaway from looking at it, and maybe this is best left for later on, but I first saw that bike and I thought to myself, man, I want to see that bike up close. There's so much more going on here than what you would just see initially. And that's one of them, right? The snorkel vent versus even just looking at the bike, you look at the gas tank and you're like, wow, that's a pretty trippy gas tank. It looks really small. I wonder how far he goes on that. And then as you start peeling back the layers, you realize oh, wow, okay, there's a lot more here than meets the eye. So how did the Sissy Bar seat tank work out with that? How did you work that into the equation?
So what do you mean by the question? How did it work?
How did that all work into you had mentioned early on that you would have maybe the front tank would hold a gallon and then the rest of it would be in the rear, and you just you'd vent through the front tank. What was the final outcome?
Yeah, so the final outcome, so that tank sits, it sits on the fender. The bottom of the fender, or the top of the fender, is the bottom of the tank, and then where that thing meets the seat, it just flows into where the seat pan sits. But I've got the molding that I ran around that seat. It shoots into the bottom of the tank, so that's how it's linked. That the molding is hollow. Okay. And so that's how that all links. And when it's got the petcock not the petcock, but the barb for the fuel line comes out right there. Kind of like where your knee would be, I guess, in the seat, and also over the top of the motor. But so that's how that's all linked together, is right there in that seat area, and then it worked. So, yeah. I mean, you got to fill it. You fill it up, and then it gets to the top, and then you kind of got to let it go back down. It takes it a minute, So it's not the fastest fill, but it does work, So I don't know if I do something like that again, maybe a bigger vent or a way to just, I don't know if there would be a fuel pump involved, but I kind of like this. This is my first kick bike. This is my first Magneto, and I like that I like the simplicity of it. Yeah, absolutely. So to start adding fuel pumps and stuff like that, it's shit. How am I going to do that? Right. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but sure. It always seems like it would need a battery to me somehow. Yeah. 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 Well, or maybe a hand crank down there. like one of those flashlights. You can just kind of crank it. That would be, hey man, it's not a bad idea. There you go. You don't have to give me credit for that. Well, I will. All right. So you got the bike. Let's pick it up from where the bike is mostly assembled, because I do remember checking out your Instagram and stuff leading up to the final judging of the last 4 bikes? I think it's 5. Yeah, the actual show. Yeah, and I was actually there that night. I didn't get out there until a little bit later, but I was there when they announced that you won, which was pretty cool because I hadn't actually met you. I knew who you were from Instagram, but I hadn't actually made the contact yet. So tell us a little bit about maybe those final days leading up to the show and what that was like. Oh man. Yeah. I got, the last, I think I got my motor back 8 days before I needed to, I think it was 8 days before I needed to leave town. Okay. And, I just barely put maybe the first cut on the paint, and started kind of putting the front end on and getting the rear wheel on and stuff like that. So that last 8 days, it's so blurry to me because there was a lot of sleepless nights, and yeah, it was cool because my dad would come over and he was helping out, and Seth Ward at the local gunsmith, and then there's another guy here in Raton who he's actually like the game warden. His name is Clint Henson, and he came over and like, man, he helped with the brake lines and the oil lines and stuff like that. So it was cool. Like there's like the four of us kind of like we like gangbang that thing.
Yeah.
And we got it, man. We got it pretty close because I needed to be in Albuquerque. I think it was like on that Tuesday before the show on Friday. Because it was me and Nikki and my mom and my dad were all going out there, but my mom had a doctor's appointment, so we needed to be in Albuquerque a day early. Okay. So, man, we had it super close, and then took it over to Aaron Labato's shop, and kind of got the chain on and messing with the spring for like just little stuff like that. It was like the little end things, and then I had on the clutch pedal. I didn't tighten up the linkage, and I had pushed the clutch, and the damn arm popped back and put a big old chip in the paint. So I was fixing that over there. So it was like, man, I don't know. I was stressing out. I was kind of freaking out, and weary with no sleep and lots of these rock stars and just high anxiety. For sure. I was nervous as all hell,
Yeah.
And so it was cool, but finally, kind of got that stuff dialed in and got the bike looking right. Still, I think, man, there was some stuff I wish that I wish I had like one more week, man, and I could have really had that thing kind of dialed in by the time we got there. But, it was looking good. It was running. It was rolling. I think the back tire was rubbing a little bit. I had a spacing problem there. It's a real tight tolerance. Mm-hmm. So pushing that thing in, it's like, it's a little hard, and you could hear the tire squeaking inside the fender. But, it was there, and I wish it would have been better, but it was the best I could do at that point. I had worked. I had done my best. And so we got out to California it was Thursday before the show, mm-hmm. and we pulled in, got our hotel room, and then we had the bike in the trailer. Me and my dad were out there. I forget, we were working on something, and I was trying to hand rub the paint and stuff. I'd only really kind of cut the paint with I just hadn't done like a final polish on it. Mm-hmm. And we ran it to the car wash, and the shit just had fingerprints and all kinds of stuff all over. Hadn't even cleaned it yet, so did that. And I think I stayed out there that Thursday night before the show till about 1:00 mm-hmm. out there. I went and got a bunch of extension cords and ran them. We had parked the trailer over at the hotel kind of by where the maintenance dudes were. So I ran the cord over there and turned the lights on in the trailer and worked out there into the night, and just got it looking as good as I could. So that was I don't know, that's when I finally went to bed that Thursday night. I was like, okay, I'm done with it. I can roll it in tomorrow, and it is what it is. So
yeah.
And so then
you finally get to the rest.
Yeah, I went and got a couple hours, and then I got up early and went to the Starbucks, and then it was set up. We had to set up our booth, get the bike over to Cook's Corner, all that stuff at the same time. It was me and my mom and my girlfriend, and we were all in the truck. We had just driven the night before, and everybody had stayed up late. So it was nobody was. We weren't having the best time. We were all excited and nervous, but man, everybody was tired.
Running on fumes and excitement. That's about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think everybody was nervous, and then.
So you get your booth set up, you get the bike over at Cook's Corner, and then you wait.
Yeah.
And so what was it like when people started coming in and actually looking at the bikes and?
Oh, dude, that was like the first time that anybody could really be able to see it in person or whatever. So I just kind of, over there where the bikes were set up, there's those benches and stuff, and I just kind of hung back there and, through all this, I had met Mike Nielsen, who won People's Champ last year, and we sat back there, and I had met Elliot, and I met the rest of the guys too. During when all this started happening, when everybody started coming in, and so it was cool. Everybody was just kind of sitting back there talking and just kind of watching it happen.
Yeah.
And it was cool, man. It was just really cool to watch people check out all those rad bikes, dude. It does, man. All those bikes.
Did you catch anybody picking apart the bikes like that you verbally could hear? I'm always curious.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't hear any like criticism, and I'm sure it went on, but I mean, like I didn't see anybody like being like negative towards any of them really, which was kind of cool,
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a big thing. Like you've put all this time and effort into your bike, and all those guys did, and then you put them out on display, and just the way people are, I would expect at least some of, like I wouldn't have put that there, or, I don't think I would have painted it like that. So I'm always curious to see like if the people who actually had their bikes there, heard or overheard any like negative stuff, but that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad they kept themselves, or they didn't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was cool. It was that's one of those things, like, I don't know, I'll remember that whole day probably for the rest of my life. It's just
and what was it like then? So what was it like for you leading up to that moment whenever they essentially added up the votes? And was it Tim that announced the winner?
Yeah, was it? Yeah, it was Tim. They had pulled us 6 guys aside and, told us all thank you, and all, it was just really cool. Told us, how close, it's really close. And so it's just one of those things, like this big buildup for me, I was just like, and didn't know. And then I had purposely, like, I made sure, like, to not, like, look at the box to see how many people were putting in their tickets, a few times.
Yeah.
A few times, I think, Mike, he's like, man, you're getting a lot of votes, or something like that. And I was just like, oh man, like I just really didn't want to think about it. I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to, I just wanted to, like, I didn't want to know that much, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so that's leading up to that. That's kind of what I was going through. We're just hanging out, just waiting, like, like you said.
So Tim announces it. Tim announces the winner, and I mean, what was your reaction? Were you I can imagine like being excited and then being like, "Wait, did you just say me?"
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know if I really even remember it correctly. I just, we're standing up there on the wall, and I remember he came and stood like right next to me to announce it. And I was like, dude, if I won, he's not going to stand next to the guy who won. That's what I kept thinking. Right. And then, so I was just like, well, I was like, well, that's, it's no big deal. Cause I talked with somebody about it, and like pretty much getting that far is a win.
Yeah, totally.
I think so. It's really, man, just finishing a bike, But
yeah.
But I remember thinking that Tim had come up here, like on my left hand side, and like he was standing right next to me. I was like, well, maybe I didn't win. And then he announced my name, and it's like, oh shit, And yeah, so this is super exciting. It's cool. It's just so cool. We had some our friends from Albuquerque were there, and my folks, man, my mom was so happy. It's just, it was this really kind of rad moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and at that same time, it's just like meeting a bunch of like some of the other invited builders and dudes that, I like just look up to, and I like stalk their Instagram and stuff like that. Those type of
totally
things, And so it's just like it's just so much.
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe overwhelming is the word.
Yeah, that's it for sure. It's just it gets kind of blurry. Like I felt like I was drunk. It's just like it's just like having the just a rad. I don't know. Just it was awesome.
You had a rad stoke going on. I mean, it was like probably like you said, you'll never forget that evening.
Oh yeah, for sure. And man, it's just too much, man.
It's awesome.
Still, I think about it now. It's unreal.
Well, I can see the smile on your face. It's very authentic. Like it's just reliving those moments and talking about this whole thing. You can still see that you're stoked about it still, and that's good. You should be. What's up next for JP? What are you going to do next?
Well, I'm doing a little bit of customer work. I'm building another bike, and I'm actually building a trike, long trike it'll have like a C cab body on it, like that type of style.
Sweet.
And got putting a pan head in it. And so yeah, I'm doing that. There's this bike here that that's kind of something that we kind of put together for my dad, little iron head. And so I'm doing that, like, since Born Free, I've built some yard art and did a little water feature. So I just, I kind of do whatever,
It's good.
But
it doesn't sound like there's that much pressure maybe financially for you, that you're forced into doing, stuff maybe that you don't like.
Yeah, I'm lucky, I guess, with it. Like that type of stuff, like the yard art stuff. That was for a local guy, and it had a good. I got paid what it was worth, and the same with the what's it called, the fountain and stuff. The kind of custom, kind of cool stuff. Metal stuff, and yeah, financially, I'm not too stressed. I do need to make some money, and
sure.
But I can always make a gate, or I got a couple tanks around here I could just paint and put on chopper swapper maybe if it comes down to it. But
there you go.
As for right now, it's not too bad.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm actually glad to hear that, because I just know from personal experience of back in the band stuff, it sucks when doing what you love becomes doing what you have to do. And so when it's like, I got to sell like 10 shirts and like 10 CDs in order to get gas in the tank to get from this next gig to the next one, so I'm glad to hear that it's like, at least you can do something that, that you can use your talents and create art, or create, rolling pieces of mechanical working art, in either way, be able to make ends. If you want to, I mean, it's totally up to you, but, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your girlfriend does, the artwork and stuff that she does?
Well, yeah, man. She's an artist. She paints. She started, I think, I don't know exactly how she got into this, but she started hand painting belt buckles and, resin coating them, and it's evolved. She's done a few, more than a few, but, larger paintings, canvases, metal, all kinds of stuff like that. And then, she's branched out into doing some jewelry, some necklaces. I think she's working on some earrings now. And, yeah, man, she does all this cool stuff. And, she does t-shirt designs, mm-hmm. and, she's got this cool, like, line of clothing and accessories. And, she'll find like vintage jeans and hand paint the jeans and stuff like that. And, yeah, she's got a cool thing going. So, and she's doing pretty good. We moved up here and she's set up, she sells everything online, and we'll go to shows. She's still got a really big, down in Albuquerque, she gets set up down there and make pretty good money usually at any type of festival that she sets up at, or fair.
What's her site, if you don't mind giving that out to everybody, so that people that are listening, they could maybe go and check out her stuff?
Yeah, you could go to it's Nikki Zabicki, NIKKIZABICKI.com, and that'll link you to her Etsy store. Her Facebook has got, I mean, I don't know how many years, like she's got a really good catalog of work on there and her photos and stuff, and her Instagram. And so that through that NikkiZabicki.com will link you to that. And then, on Instagram, it's at Nikki Zabicki, and she's got a bunch of stuff on there. And
do you use your Instagram account or anything like that for what you do, or is it more of a private account?
My Instagram it's pretty much this. I really, it's all like that's my life on there. So someday you might see something that's going on with something I'm working on, or it might be a picture of the van I'm going somewhere. So, yeah. But that'll tell you what's going on pretty much, the Instagram, I guess. And
what's your Instagram?
So it's JP_Rodman. Yeah.
Pretty,
at JP.
pretty.
What's that?
Sorry. This is that technology stuff, right?
Oh, I know there's like a weird little delay or something going on, but yeah, so it's at JP_Rodman. Just simple.
Easy to remember. And we'll put them up in the links to down below this video whenever it's done. So you'll be able to check out not only JP's work, but also Nikki's work. So that is your girlfriend's name, right, Nikki?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm terrible with names.
Man, I'm the worst too. I just like, hey, dude, it takes me like three times of meeting face to face usually.
Yeah, no, same here. And I think it stems back from those days of like just being in a different city, like every other day or something. You meet so many people, you're just like, hey man, you come back a year later, hey man, how are you? It's good to see you, bro.
Yeah, man, that's it. What's up, man?
So, well, first I just want to say thank you again, man, for letting me interview you and being a part of the community. And I know it's been a few months, but congratulations again. And I think your creation was not only way out there, but was something that was pretty amazing, in contrast to everything else that was going on. And that, I don't mean that in a demeaning way to everybody else, but it was just really refreshing to see something that was so, in my opinion, really period correct, but really cool. And that's just my personal thing. It's more of like a late 60s, early 70s kind of long chopper, and just really kind of psychedelic in its own way. And
wow, that's cool.
I don't know if that's the way you had intended it, but that's what I took away from it. So
yeah, that's the vibe I was going for sure. And man, I just thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. But going back to those other builders in the contest, that's what pushed me to kind of just like go a little bit farther, kind of watching what those guys were doing, and amazing. I tripped out seeing what those guys were doing, and it was like, like the skill sets that I don't have. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to start reading some books, dude. I'm going to have to buy some tools, because
yeah.
Those guys are just amazing builders, and I gotta hand it to them, because that's what made me want to build a better bike, Yeah. And
those are good words, man. Because it's, in my opinion, we can have all these contests, every year, and so-and-so built this killer bike, so-and-so didn't show up, or so-and-so was invited and they showed up with this amazing thing. But when it comes down to it, like we're building, riding, and enjoying the things that we love. And it's good to see people, bring good, positive things out of it without sounding too PC right there. It's good to see good, positive things come out of, especially the people on the inside, like you guys building and the relationships and stuff that are there.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one thing, like just trying to always, I don't know, be positive about it. There's enough fucking bullshit, you know?
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, to give credit where credit's due, you know, like, dude, there's so many people were involved with that thing with me. And I asked so many people so many questions, and, you know, I didn't do that. It didn't happen on its own. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't solely me. So, you know, I can't take all the credit, you know, I just can't, but, I'm real fortunate that people are, you know, willing to help with that. And then, you know, fortunate that people actually liked it. You know, it's a kind of, it maybe a little bit of a stretch that people weren't gonna, you know, it's not, I don't know, it's not the most popular thing that these days, I guess, to put a bunch of Bondo onto a motorcycle, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, it's sometimes pushing people out of their comfort zones, you know, allows them to maybe experience a new comfort zone. So maybe there was people just waiting in the wings for that specific look, you know. They obviously liked what was going on, but then when your bike was revealed, they were just like that. That's what I've been waiting for.
Oh man! So yeah, I don't know. I'm just lucky that it did. You know, that it got some momentum or some wheels behind it or something. And you know, a lot of people reposted that stuff during the votes. Mm-hmm. And man, I could never. I don't know if I could never thank everybody enough. Like, because it has. It's changed my life a little bit. And you know, I don't think I kind of be, you know, they could, I don't know if that even happens anymore, like a huge bike builder or, you know, something like that. I don't see that in my future, but, you know, it's opened doors for me, and it's got me communicating with guys, you know, who are helping me learn new skills and stuff like that. You know, it was cool out of this whole thing, like meeting, Dave Barker from Speed Metal Cycles up in Denver, and you know, him being able to look at the bike, and I was telling him kind of some stuff that I was having problems with, and he could tell me what I was doing wrong and what I was doing right, and that shit's fucking priceless, man. You know, so that's like the number one rad thing out of this whole thing is like, I don't know, it's pushing me to learn some more shit, you know.
That's good. Great. Causing you to be better, right?
Yeah, that's all I want. You know, I just, because usually when you're a little bit better at something, it makes it a little bit easier.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
So that's the goal, is to not have to struggle.
I hear that, man. Well, JP, thank you so much, man, for joining us. And I think, you know, to your comment about could never thank everybody. I think you did during this cast, and I heard you say thank you plenty of times to numerous amounts of people. So thank you for being a part of the culture and you know, definitely putting a pin on the map, you know, during this part of the life cycle of, I hate to use the term, but chopper culture. You know, you've your bike has made its appearance, and I don't think it'll ever go away. I think people are going to always remember that. And in turn, now they're going to, you know, remember the person who built it. So I'm grateful for you doing this interview, and maybe sometime in the near future, we can catch up and have another one.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, let's do it. I appreciate you so much, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think I've listened to all the interviews, and just how it's just super cool, you know. It's cool. This is a cool thing that you're doing.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm humbled. Thank you. All right, JP. Well, we'll talk to you soon. You have a great evening, and like I said, we'll catch up soon.
Okay, Mike. Thanks, man.
You got it, man.